Welcome to the California Democratic Renters Council convening virtual meeting. We have a full agenda today. We have a guest that would like for her to start early. Time is limited. So we would like to invite the senator before we, to speak with us. Senator Aisha Wahab.
Hi guys, how are you guys?
Great.
All right, what can I just ask, what would you guys like me to cover?
Well, we are the California Democratic Renters Council, and affordable housing, tenant protections, that is what, there's plenty of spaces for other, but we like to focus on what is important to tenants right now. We're about 18 million renters in California, and the housing crisis, and we've seen the pandemic, and we've seen the floods happening. So obviously there's legislation that is being sponsored, and we would like to hear, what your vision, and what issues you're fighting as it pertains to tenants, to make sure that we're able to remain housed, that, prevention of displacement, happens, and that we're able to also be part of this great American dream of one time being a homeowner,
Okay, so one, I just really want to thank you guys for having me. I will tell you guys that I had a bill specifically about evictions that became a 2-year bill. I sit on appropriations, but we all know that the chair of appropriations has far more authority. That was a mandated bill request to make it a 2-year bill. Now, the reason why this bothers me is because obviously the realtors and the real estate industry as a whole actually went around the state capitol building telling everybody that they are opposed to this particular bill, and they find it cumbersome. Now, this bill was specifically for multifamily complexes to report their evictions in a specific way that we've done in the city of Hayward. It's relatively affordable, to be honest with you, number one. Number two is the fact that evictions, literally, if you've ever been evicted, you have roughly 5 days in the state of California to pack your belongings and leave. And we offered roughly 10+ days for individuals to just report that they are interested in evicting. And they felt that that timeline was too short to literally just send an email or fill out a document, number one. Number two is the fact that we need a database of hosting the data. That has become problematic, something we want to work on in the next 6 months or so, as to find a home for this particular database. We wanted to house it. We were actually told to house it in the Secretary of State's department, primarily because they absorb so much data already and so forth, and they were potentially more able and more equipped to handle the tech aspect of it. They put a lovely price tag of $100 million ongoing yearly cost for this database. Anybody that works in technology knows it does not cost that much money to host data, and very limited and reduced data, if you will. And so we are looking for some advocates and partnerships in that regard. When we push this in the city of Hayward, I will say that evictions dropped by double-digit percentage points within 12 months. And the people that are being evicted are, number one, seniors, number two, immigrant communities and people of color, right? Let alone veterans and disabled individuals. So I really want to highlight the most vulnerable community members are the ones that are targeted by these groups to evict them, because even under a rent-controlled unit, the moment that that unit is free, they can add, that unit to market rate prices. So I specifically want to say that that bill is still very important to me. We have a lot of work to do. And if you guys would like to help, our office is very much open to receiving the help. Now, SB567 is our Costa Hawkins reform bill. It is not a gut bill, it is a reform bill. The part that it will reform is the 1995 language. And I just want to tell you guys, and I know some of you guys were actually at the meeting, we had the votes to change the vote, change the number from 1995 to a rolling 15-year. But the reason why we took the amendment is because if one person was afraid to challenge the chair, we would have lost that particular vote, right? So we took it and we got the chair's buy-in to make it updated on that regard, just to kind of, you can say instead of 15 years, now it's 28 years. It's a rolling 28 period. It's still up to local jurisdictions. The homes that, the multifamily complexes that were under rent control prior to 1995 that are stuck in, let's say, 1978, 79, many cities, Hayward, San Francisco, other cities are stuck at that time, can be updated each year by 2 years until it reaches the 1995 development timeline. And then all 1995 development timeline, and including the ones from 1978 that have moved on to 1995, would be updated by 1 year. It's a little complicated. I actually need to show you via Excel sheets or a graph, but all of you guys who have worked in the Costa Hawkins space kind of understand that. And if you read the bill, it's pretty clear. Now, we are supposed to bring this to the Senate floor. I will tell you, based on my latest vote count, we are a couple votes shy of hitting 21. I ask that you all call your senators to literally give us the 3 or 4 votes that we need to get past 21, okay? There are many people that are abstaining from this vote and have stated that they will abstain. We don't want people on the fence. An abstention is a polite no, right? And anybody that views themselves as tenant advocates or anything like that needs to vote yes, number one. Number two, one of the talking points I really want to share with people is the fact that this does not affect rent control in the state of California in that regard. It is still up to the local jurisdictions to implement rent control. So if your city does not have rent control, this bill is not going to give you rent control, right? And so all the senators that are afraid of this particular bill, we need to kind of apply a little bit more pressure. I really do recommend all of you guys calling, emailing, texting throughout the state. It is a very digestible bill, right? Even a moderate person can support this particular bill. And hence why we did receive the majority of the Judiciary Committee eventually voting for this, because it was so moderate. And people told me that they saw me choke on the amendments as I was taking them. So I'm not happy with the amendments, but it is the way the sausage is made in the Senate and the state legislature. And we need help in regards to that. I will say that it is extremely tough. As much as we talk about housing, we actually know it's an affordability crisis, not a development crisis. That is my priority. That is why I am focused on the evictions. I'm focused on the rent control. I'm focused on the vacancies and much more. So that is really where my space of framework and thought process and initiatives will be. It will not necessarily be in let's develop more, because they've been developing for years and years and years with incentives, with this and that. But that's not really my battle. My battle is making sure that more people are housed with their limited incomes, right? So I will continue stating that. And then as far as our stable, affordable housing, SB555, that has also moved through all of their committees. It's available for the public, the Senate floor as well. We genuinely want support around that as well, but because that is also a far more digestible bill, my priority has been the Costa Hawkins bill. And then this particular bill. So because the eviction bill is now a 2-year bill, so we're not gonna have to worry about that for a little while. SB555 is a very good bill. All the housing advocates are on top of it. It is a study bill, plus the fact that we are trying to initiate low and extremely low income housing as the priority, not necessarily market rate. And again, that is the difference between a lot of the bills that are being talked about in the stable, affordable housing space / social housing space, right? But we have a large coalition around that. But I will say Costa Hawkins, in my particular opinion, as much as people have talked about it and advocates, I have not seen the advocacy around this particular bill. So I definitely would like to recommend that everybody, again, reach out and talk to their senators throughout the state of California. And I'm happy to take any questions you guys may have.
There are some in chat, but I do have one for you. From all those who do you think that we can move that are that require a little bit of a nudge?
You guys aren't gonna like the names. I would honestly touch every single person, right? I don't want to specifically put anybody out on blast, but take a look at who historically has voted there on previous housing bills. There are people that are willing to, I always ask my Senate colleagues, can you stretch a little bit? This is a bill that they can stretch on, and granted, the real estate industry will never like any of the Costa Hawkins bill. Let's be honest about that. But this is an update bill. It's very digestible. It is very easy to say, okay, I understand, but it still doesn't bring rent control. So even a mod can support this particular bill, right? So as much as possible, whoever in your head is a mod, please reach out to them, specifically in the Southern California area, the Peninsula area, and Central Valley. There's a handful of folks that, you know, are, we would say are, you know, young, people of color, so forth. They should be on board with this because this is a people's issue. Yes, I would have to agree with some of the comments that are in the chat as well.
Thank you. Is there a question that you may have? Esther's asking a question, says, would appreciate hearing where Laird stands on this. Locally, he's making statements locally, but not being as pro as he should be.
Senator Laird actually has historically been pretty supportive of a lot of my initiatives. I believe that I am counting him as an I vote in this particular effort. So I think that that's very much a plus. I would say, again, it's really Southern California and Central Valley that I'm very concerned about. Individuals like in the Bay Area that are, let's say, around the peninsula. You guys can guess who that is. We definitely need some more support there. But Senator Laird has been very supportive. And again, the folks that you guys think is backed by California Apartment Association is very much backed by a California Apartment Association.
Is there any other questions for Senator? I don't see any. Thank you so much for being with us and for spotlighting and being a champion for tenants. We really appreciate you being out there. You know, looking, oh, here's a question that popped in. Oh, Alfred, is SB 395, is he's responding to?
I just put in the chat the bill numbers, and all the info on these bills will go out in the minutes later tonight.
Great, thank you.
Thank you guys again. Happy to answer questions, happy to give you guys updates. And again, thank you for your advocacy.
Thank you for joining us, and thank you for all that you do.
Definitely.
So thank you all. I'm going to go back to the agenda. So we still have the welcome. We had to jump in early on with the senator so that she can speak with us and the work that she's doing and advocating for tenant protections. I would like to go into go into the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
I so move, Madam Chair.
I'll second. This is Vinnie Bacon.
And there's a second. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Al-
Aye.
All right, it is approved.
It is approved. Now can we, the minutes, can we is there a move to approve the minutes for our last meeting?
I have, Madam Chair, this is Art. I have reviewed them and I still make the motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Hear a second from Esther. Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Alfred, do we have?
Secretary's report? Yes.
Yes.
So, welcome everybody. We are now over 300 members in our organization. Thank you everybody who's joined. And I have recently just updated our website to be a lot easier to navigate now that we've got a few years of information. And then the other thing that we have coming up is the Renters Rising reception with Housing as a Human Right. It's going to be our in-person activity for a convention this year. It's going to be Saturday, May 27, 12:30 to 2:30 p.m. at Sonoritas at 1050 Flower Street, a block from the convention center. There will be food and drink provided. And I'll put that info in the chat as well.
Thank you, Alfred. Do we have a treasurer report?
Yes, we do. Thank you, Madam Chair. As Alfred noted, our membership is going well, and as a result, our treasury is going well. We now have $3,986 in the bank. I also have a check in hand for $313, and that brings us to just short of $4,300.
Thank you. All right, so we're gonna go now to regional updates. And just be mindful that we're gonna be having guests coming in. We expect Senator Maria Elena Durazo, Attorney General Rob Bonta, and as soon as they come in, we're gonna have to break our meeting to allow spaces for them to talk to us. Their time is limited, but they do come with great information. So now we're going to regional updates. North District, Regional District, Vice Chair Igor.
All right, thank you so much. We do have a few updates and we are going to have a few speakers coming in a little later. So we'll try to space this out as folks come in. But first, I wanted to, well, for those of you who know, because we've been giving updates about this, there has been a tremendous effort to extend the same renter protections in my home county of Alameda, enjoyed by a number of tenants in places like Berkeley, Oakland, Hayward, San Leandro, to tenants in unincorporated parts of Alameda County. And this is a real fight, not just within Alameda County, but really this can be a blueprint for unincorporated areas everywhere, all across the state. So I motivate that presentation because I want to give the floor now and pass the mic to a champion of folks in unincorporated communities in Alameda County and beyond, and that's no other than Barisha Spriggs, who is also on our central committee as an elected member. And Barisha, you have the floor.
Thank you, Igor. So I'm a founding member of My Eden Voice, Eden Renters United. We started in 2018 And for the last basically 3 years, we've been fighting to create renters protections. Of course, the unincorporated areas only have only start with the Alameda County supervisors. We are unincorporated. We don't have city level government or services. There's about 150,000 of us in Alameda County. And so in February, we were trying to pass phase 1 of the tenant protections. That's just cause, rent registry, fair chance. And that was actually voted down by the new supervisor, Lena Tam, also Supervisor Halbert and Supervisor Miley abstained, all abstained, and we didn't have enough votes on the second reading. The second reading is when an ordinance actually passes or does not pass. So it did not pass. We were very disheartened by that. There were a lot of homeowners who had their own rally that day before we had ours. And they were putting a lot of pressure to end the eviction moratorium, which that eviction moratorium also ended on that day that the ordinances were not passed. And also they took away on that same day funding for the nonprofits that provide legal advice. And so it was really an attack on renters in Alameda County. So it was very devastating for us. And then April 29th, the Alameda County eviction moratorium officially ended, lifting, and it's many tenants are at risk of displacement, especially single family home renters. So my Eden Voice survey that we had shows that 1/4 of renters surveyed have concerns about receiving an eviction notice from their landlords. So we were always saying in the February meeting that we believe that it's going to be a tsunami of evictions. So for June coming up, we're bringing up the Just Cause Rental Registry. It has been moved back to the Unincorporated Services Committee. So that's a committee that's it's like the first step of the process before it gets to the Board of Supervisors. So it's called the Alameda County Unincorporated Services Committee with Supervisor Miley and Supervisor Tam, because those are the 2 supervisors that directly have constituents in the unincorporated area. Most likely it will be weakened by Supervisor Miley. He might be willing to compromise on tenant protections, and single family tenants hopefully will be covered. But we've really been having a problem with Supervisor Miley is he wanted us to compromise too much, because he wanted to exempt units with 3, I think it was 3 or 4 from the protections and we thought that was too many, because that wouldn't cover a lot of single family dwellings for just cause. It would leave like 70 or 80% of the people out if we make that exemption. So that's too much of a compromise. And so we're trying to meet with the new appointed supervisor, Elisa Marquez, to assess the support for the package and see where her mindset is. And so it's unclear when the full tenant protections will go to the full Board of Supervisors at this time. So we just need to see what's going to happen. Also, of course, Elisa Marquez will need to run for that office. And she will need to go onto the ballot in March to keep that position that she was appointed to. there may be other individuals that will be running against Elisa Marquez. And then there will be there's at least one person that's running against our supervisor, Miley, in March as well. So we'll have to see, what will be the outcome of those races. Jennifer Estina is running against Supervisor Miley in Alameda County Supervisor District 4. And we'll see who else will run against Elisa Marquez, appointed supervisor for District 2. So we're gonna need all the support. We'll let you know when we need support when and if it gets to the full board of supervisors, this particular package. But you can still call in to Miley and Tam to show your support during the unincorporated services meeting, show your support for the 3 ordinances that were mentioned.
Thank you so much, Varisha.
Yeah.
As for those of you who have just joined the Renters Council, welcome. And you will know that we will continue to disseminate action alerts on all the things that are happening that need your attention. And Alameda County has been the subject of a number of those action alerts that will continue. So whenever there is an inflection point, whitelist emails from CADEM Renters Council at gmail.com to make sure that you're up to date. And together, when we fight, we win. Next up, I wanted to pass the mic to our newly re-elected at-large member of the Renters Council, an amazing ACE organizer, working down in Sacramento. That's none other than Monica Madrid, and she will give us an update about some important issues she's been working on in Sacramento.
Hi, everybody. So Sacramento ACE is actually working on passing a tenant anti-harassment ordinance similar to those already in effect. And specifically, we're using the Berkeley and Oakland ordinance as like model policies, I believe. It's either Berkeley or Oakland or Berkeley and Richmond. I'm not sure which one are our model policies. We had a town hall in March. We had about 90 renters attend, either in person or in a mixture of in person and on Zoom. And we were able to get both Supervisor Patrick Kennedy and Councilmember Katie Maple to commit to authoring it at the city and county level. Unfortunately, with the supervisors, we do not have the votes yet. We have to work on, we have a Republican majority board of supervisors right now. So we have to work on our most reasonable Republican, Supervisor Rich Desmond, where we do have some members in his district and apartment complexes in his district. So we're going to work with his office and hopefully see if we can have, yes, exactly, it is gross, and see if he can slide on it. So I'm actually not sure how good the policy will be on the supervisors because it'll be a Republican majority. That being said, we do have a fully Democratic Sacramento City Council. However, they're all funded by the Apartment Association, with the exception of Councilmember Maple, Councilmember Vang, Councilmember Talamantes, and Councilmember Valenzuela. And so when we went to the Law and Legislation Committee meeting back in the beginning of April, the Apartment Association came. They said that tenant anti-harassment is already illegal, and we already have this tenant protection program in place. We don't need, this is just a duplicative law. So then Councilmember Eric Guerra said, I don't think tenants are actually being harassed. I need to see the data. I've only heard of it happening in mobile home parks, but not happening in apartment complexes or houses. Councilmember Lisa Kaplan said that she needed to see more data. She needed to look at the budget. She's also a brand new council member. And Councilmember Rick Jennings said that tenants need to educate themselves about their rights and about the programs that we already have in place. Mind you, when we've had tenants call, we're now filming TikToks of tenants calling these programs. They go straight to voicemail. Some of these programs say they're only taking calls on an emergency level only. We've had Councilmember Valenzuela lifted up that she's our champion on the council, lifted up that when she's had tenants in her district call and she's called herself, they don't get back to them. And they've told tenants that they don't work on harassment issues. They only work on trying to stop evictions. When we tried calling, one of the hotlines that Councilmember Jennings had actually mentioned was a Sacramento self-help housing hotline, which like 2 weeks before that meeting actually lost its funding from the county. And so it's actually not the tenants that need to educate themselves. It's the council members, it's the city, it's the county, it's our elected officials, it's the apartment association, because they don't know what's actually going on in these apartment complexes. And I know the apartment association is not going to care, but that's why us as tenants, we need to keep organizing, keep getting more people showing up to the city council meetings. Next time when they have it, my goal is to have twice as many tenants showing up as they did last time at the Law and Legislation Committee, because if it does not get out of the Law and Legislation Committee, it will not go to the full council vote. And right now, the only person on that Law and Legislation Committee that's supporting it is Councilmember Katie Maple. So if people want to go and call Councilmember Guerra, Councilmember Lisa Kaplan, or Councilmember Rick Jennings, or if you, even better, if you know people in their district, tenants in their district, let us know. We could give you their phone number. But it's really crucial that at a city level, since it's moving faster than the county, that we make sure that this gets passed.
Thank you so much, Monica. And Monica will continue to update us on actions that we can take to make sure that when we're thinking about actions in Sacramento, we don't just mean the state's capital, we also mean the city and the county of Sacramento as well. We have 2 more speakers for this section. We're going to try to move through this quickly because we have some exciting programming in store. But first, I want to just introduce Jackie Elward, who is running for Senate District 3. And just very much appreciate candidates for State Senate hopping on. I guess it's not that early, but earlier than our endorsement to tell us about what they're going to do to move the needle in Sacramento. So Jackie, you have the floor and welcome.
Hi, everybody. Hello, members of the CDP Renters Council. My name is Jackie Elward, and I'm proud to have been endorsed by you in the past. And don't mind me, I'm having some allergy going on, so my eyes are a little bit puffy. And so I am proud to say that after receiving your endorsement last time, now I am running for Senate seat in District 3. And that will include a portion of Contra Costa, Napa, Sacramento, Solano, Sonoma, and Yolo County. And it's an open seat. And as you may remember, I am a council member and former mayor, educator, and labor organizer. So we have worked on a few things, you know, up in Roanoke Park and fighting for renters. And, you know, as I always say, if elected, but when I will be elected, I will be the first California state legislator ever born in Africa. So it's a big deal, right? And I found ways to bring the community together. As you know, you have watched me do my job in Roanoke Park in Sonoma County. I found ways to bring around affordable housing. When I say affordable housing, affordable housing, because sometimes when it's affordable housing, we don't even know how affordable that is, because people go to work every day and they cannot afford to even get a place to call home. And, we need to invest in that. Today we're dealing with a lot of people being unhoused. So I'm not gonna use the term homeless, because I dislike that term. It's unhoused, because a lot of people go to work every day and they cannot afford getting a roof under their head, because it's so hard to even afford it. So, I work hard to make sure that we still keep our middle class. It's very important, and work on the sustainable agriculture and our clean energy and all of this. So I see somebody. Yes, housing price in SD County have doubled in 10 years. How can it be possible for people to rent? Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, we need to find a ways that renters can live, can be able to afford the places that they call home. Okay. And what I've heard from people up and down the 3rd district is that deep pockets are heard and the rest of us are ignored. We cannot keep doing that. We cannot continue letting that go. And for me, as you know, when I get there, we will make sure that the renters get heard. And with the few minutes that I have, I wanted to just say, here I am with you guys, and I am proud. I got a few endorsements from Jared Hoffman and 5 others, a colleague of mine. And I would love to be able to come in front of you and earn another endorsement from you and continue the work that we have been doing together. So thank you so much for giving me that time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. We are excited for you to join us. Please do post your info in the chat. And thanks again. And we are kind of moving into North Bay, and the last speaker for my report will be Mayor Chance Cotrano, who did something that in the North Bay that was deemed impossible for many decades, up until he did it last year. He was able, with his leadership, to get the town of Fairfax in the North Bay to institute rent control, the first, I think, jurisdiction in the North Bay to do so. So, Chance, I know you've been coming under pressure since then. What can we tell us what you did? Tell us how we can support you now.
Yes, thank you so much, Igor, and greetings, everybody. It's really great to see you all. Happy Sunday Eve here. Glad to be with you. So I've given you all updates in the past on this campaign in the North Bay. And it is true that back in December, we had our second reading. And so we've passed not only the first rent stabilization ordinance in the North Bay, but some of the strongest tenant protections in all of California here in the North Bay. It's really great to see. And what's more, the details around that I'll share. It's as far as rent stabilization, it's 60% of CPI or 5%, whichever is lower. That's how much people can raise rents each year. And with that, we've created a rental registry, which will be the first of those that'll be mandatory in the North Bay, but also our just cause eviction ordinance that dovetails with our rent stabilization ordinance is also very robust, and I think largely what's come under a lot of pressure. I think a lot of it's come from small landlords. This ordinance has not only reached, fourplexes, but duplexes and ADUs as well. So it's, obviously new builds are exempt from this, but it's pretty expansive in that it covers a lot of renters. In a place like Fairfax, a lot of the rental units are in these sorts of homes, these duplexes and things like that. So we found it was pretty critical to extend these protections to everybody in our community, or to as many people as possible. The real estate industry has had a couple strong players that have been organizing against this. This has been, in my opinion, one of the most cohesive coalitions to push for this. In my experience in the North Bay, it's brought environmentalists, tenants' rights folks, labor, and a whole slew of other organizations and community-based groups that are pushing for this. And we are trying to avoid an initiative. It's possible that that'll happen just because we're a small community and it's not too hard to get to the number of signatures needed. Though there was a failed referendum right after the laws were passed back in December. So right now we're having community workshops and continuing to take input to hear, from as many people as want to continue to weigh in on this. So we'll see. I mean, right now, what would be super helpful if folks in the North Bay, but also if you, have experiences with this elsewhere, it'd be really good to get in touch and hear how the kind of ups and downs of these things happen. Because, of course, people want to delay, for as long as possible, the implementation of these laws. We've kind of put them on a pause as we take more input from in terms of like setting up the rental registry and hiring folks to implement it, but they're in effect. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I think the most exciting thing I can share with you all, because that can be kind of, like being in the middle of conflict in a small community is hard, but one of the most exciting things about it is that we're finally having these dialogues as a community. And it's sparked something in the North Bay that there are now 3 other communities that are having these conversations on their agendas openly in the North Bay, which is, we've planted the seed for what will hopefully be either some sort of JPA or something that's coordinated by the county, where all of the communities that really want to implement these things can opt into something that makes it an easier lift for really small municipalities. We were trying to figure it out as the smallest community in the United States to implement it. And at the same time, that creativity may not be needed if we can get more communities on board. And so that's been the most exciting thing that's happening in the North Bay. I'll definitely keep Igor and others on the, thanks for putting the acronym, Joint Powers Authority. But yeah, I'll keep everybody on the Renters Council updated on this as it continues this year, but really proud of the work that's been happening in Fairfax. And thank you all for your interest in it and for your support for tenants across the great state of California. So great to be with y'all.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I see you have a question in the chat, and maybe just for time, you could respond in the chat to Carol. I urge anyone who can to please stay on till the end of this meeting. We do have some exciting and important organizing updates as well that are going to be not part of my report, but do impact both the North Bay, the Bay Area, and the state of California. But with that, we have more exciting programming throughout. So I'm going to turn this back over to Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I'll pass it on to Vice Chair Arturo Rodriguez from the Central Valley. Central Region.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that. Wow, what a exciting update in Northern California. Today I sit here with knowing one thing is that, boy, has this Renters Council really come a long ways from when we were really working with the party to get us chartered, and it took us nearly 4 years to actually this year really being a test of who we are as an institution within the Democratic Party. Were we just going to be another organization that, you know, kind of goes through the motions? And I'm glad to say that that's not the case, because the folks that founded this council, the folks that have been, you know, volunteering and putting in their time, is because we're all renters and we've all been facing some really, really difficult times. And so when we review.
Vice Chair Rodriguez, may I interrupt you? Senator Maria Elena Durazo is here.
Oh, I'd gladly hand over the floor, Madam Chair, and continue when the senator is done. I'm happy to see her. Senator Maria Elena Durazo.
Thank you. Officer at Large, Susie Shannon, would you please do introduction?
Very happy to. So Senator Maria Elena Durazo, I have known for so long, since she was at the LA County Federation of Labor. She's a very strong labor leader. She's also put in some very sweeping legislation on tenants' rights this year and in previous years, and we're so happy to have her here today.
Thank you, Susie. Yeah, we've done some stuff and gotten into trouble, huh? But that's
we
okay.
have. Yes, we have.
Well, you know, you led to the Poverty Council at the DNC, right? Created that, you know, while I was over there. And
yeah, I got into trouble for that.
Yeah, and simultaneous to that, we created the Labor Council within the DNC, which had never existed before. So anyway, it's all good. It's all for the better. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Art, everyone. On this council, I do want to just say a few words. Obviously, you all know as members of the Renters Council what the crisis is, but I also want to ask you to support one of the bills, my SB567, which is the Homeless Prevention Act. This bill has the top, many of the top tenants organizations in the state, from ACE to CRLA, the Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability, PICO, Public Advocates, and Western Center on Law and Poverty. So we're looking for support, building more support to get this. Just got through appropriations, and we're moving out now to the floor. As Susie said, I've had other renters, tenants' rights from what was the other issues were the rights for tenants to organize, protect that. And we've done a number of things, and we've always faced the enormous opposition and of the apartment owners and the realtors. That's what really comes back and hurts us. So this is a very good, very reasonable measure to address loopholes in the existing law and provide some more enforcement of the protections that tenants are supposed to have. But if you don't have protection, if you don't have enforcement, then, you know, a lot of these protections makes it a lot harder for them to have value. You all know what the unhoused population is. I don't have to get into that. But certainly we know what rent increases do as far as leading to homelessness. It's not what they can afford, but there's also something else going on. There was a commitment made over the last couple of years. There was a commitment made through legislation that was passed to really close the loopholes for landlords to evict. That was the commitment. That's not happening. Landlords are looking for how to use loopholes to evict. They're not satisfied with, you know, with what they have. They want to be able to do that. You know, once there's an eviction on somebody's record, you got to come up with several months of rent, you know, for a down payment to get in. You can't meet the rent. You don't, when people can't meet it, they don't have that kind of money in the bank waiting. So families are getting pushed out because they don't have those protections and because we can't enforce them. So SB567 is going to do a lot better as far as the protections and enforcement. The loopholes for landlords to evict people at no fault of their own. And then we've added enforcement at the local public level and also private enforcement. And that also adds on to even if there's an enforcement, a violation of the rent increase. So we're really, caught on to something. This is going to be very difficult to get the votes. We really need everyone's support to help get this through. Again, you all know the power of the realtors and the owners, and we have to get on it, get more pressure on them so that they on the legislators so that we can get this passed. So that's a quick summary, Susie. Thank you all so much. This is not only important for me personally, but for our district has the highest percentage of renters in the whole state. I don't know how it's been changed because of the pandemic, but it was at about 78% of the constituents in this district alone. So it means a lot to the people, the residents of our district. So with that, I'll turn it back over to you. Again, I appreciate all of you and need your help.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Senator Maria Elena Durazo. I got the privilege of meeting you in person a couple of times, but this last time was very special. It was when the release of the farm worker health study, and you share your story as daughter of farm workers and your reasoning for pushing tenant protections in your fight. You have lived experience and it shows in your work. Thank you for your leadership. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna pass it on to Vice Chair Arturo Rodriguez, so he can continue with his Central Region updates, and we are hearing from him, a couple of guests as well.
Okay, thanks. Absolutely. Wow. So happy that Senator Maria Elena Durazo joined us today and the work that she's doing in the Capitol. And we've showed up. And this kind of leads me to where I kind of left off, that the Renters Council has really come together. I mean, this year we heard the Secretary mention that we've reached 300 members. Well, it's one of the very important things that we do is that ensure that legislators, that people in Sacramento are acting in what's the best interest for renters. And so just this year, the Renters Council rescinded one of the endorsements for a council member in the city of Delano who was not standing up for renters, who campaigned on supporting rent control, but when it came up to his diocese, he voted against it, and then he said that he never supported it. And so I'd like to say that how proud I am of this council, that we're holding true to the values of lifting up renters and fighting for what's best for tenants. But not only that, for some of us that's been doing this for a long time, this isn't something that we just show up for and sit at our homes and just be computer warriors. Many of us are out there knocking on doors and building relationships, are approaching city council members and state senators and state assembly members and making those hard asks. Just about all the people that I serve with here in the council, I mean, we've been lockstep in the Capitol, bringing in people from our areas and really making sure that the voice of the tenant is being heard. One of the things that we've done, I think many of us do, right, is yes, we send out emails, yes, we make phone calls to Sacramento, but those relationships that we're building, either with your neighbors, with family members, those when you're getting people to come out and sign up to vote, when you're getting people involved, your friends, other community members that are there, is a huge part in what we're doing. And so in the Central Valley, we are now seeing a large wave of movements to move for tenant protections. You know, there's a strong fight going on in Delano, both pushing city council to adopt rent stabilization, but even going further and taking it to the ballot. And I know that there is a strong effort there, and we might hear a little bit more about that later on, but it's not just Delano. We see the fight happening in Fresno, and I see some folks from Fresno here who know that firsthand, and it's not gonna be the first time, but it's gonna be the better time since we're getting more and more folks lined up with us. I know that the city of Merced has temporarily adopted rent stabilization measures due to current climate change that's been going on. And I hear in the background that the city of Modesto is also gearing up for the rent control fight. But none of this is possible if we don't button down, if we don't get those people that we know and love out there and voting and putting pressure, which is why, not to take up too much time, I do wanna invite Yolanda Chacon, who is part of the Rural Justice Alliance, as well as an organizer in the Central Valley. And her job right now is to is really getting people signed up to and registered to vote. And so with that, I might ask Yolanda, and I do have our wonderful Esther, who's going to give her Central Coast report soon after that. Yolanda, if you may.
Okay, so, you know, we've been hearing, we live in the Central Valley, so we know all the issues we deal with on a central basis. And I echo what Vice Chair said, because we are at the council meetings, we're there for our environment and for workers' rights and all the other issues that we're facing in the Valley. So the great thing about this issue is there's a solution. We have 301 registered voters in CD 22 and only 106, we have 301,620 registered voters and 106,027 voted. That was 35%. And 129,927 were Democrats. Only 46,000 voted. That's 35%. The Republicans, they had 78,885, and they had 49% voting. But the largest the largest portion was in the Latino demographics, and in the ages from 18 to 24, only 17% voted, and 25 to 34, 19%. So the great news here is we are starting early with the Democratic Party to outreach to our friends and family, to do text banking, to do calling, to listen to constituents, because we know what the issues are, but they need to be engaged, and not at the last minute, but us building relationships and helping them with the propositions and coming to their door, because like I say, at every door is the ballot. So we are going to be starting our first action at the Organizing Forever Convention coming up May 26th through the 28th. So we know that we do not agonize, we organize. So we'll have our first action there. It'll be text banking on Saturday, May 27th from 12 noon to 2. And also that will be also at the same time, we'll be bundling essential items for the Women's Downtown Center with Supervisor Hilda Solis and Lindsay Horvath, and also Attorney General Rob Bonta and our chair, Rusty Hicks. We are going to organize and we're going to outreach to every community. So I'm inviting folks to join our training. Our first training will be after the convention, June 14th, and that'll be a Zoom from 5 to 6. And any information that you need, you could sign up at cadem.org /mobilize. So every one of us can make a difference. And like we say in the farm worker movement, unidos ganaremos, together we win. We win. And like Dolores Huerta says, we can do it. Sí se puede.
Thank you, Yolanda, for that update. Next, I will ask our Central Coast at-large member who just won her re-election. Congratulations, Esther. If you wouldn't mind giving us your Central Coast update. Thank you.
Yeah, so good evening, everybody. I want to kind of piggyback onto some of the things that Mayor Chance said, because I am also a resident of the city of Monterey, and we are a very small community, 30,000 residents, and 66% of us are renters. So the last election, we made a real concerted effort to get the renter vote out, and in the whole county. And we were able to flip some Republican seats on the supervisors. And in our cities, we completely flipped the city of Monterey City Council from a good old boys, all retired white guys holding every seat, to the most diverse council that we've ever had. We finally have a woman back on council. We've got the first Hispanic ever on our city council. Our mayor is the youngest and first gay Black mayor ever. So we're very, very excited. And that last election gave us a lot of momentum that we've been seeing make things happen now. So for example, the city of Salinas, who also flipped a couple of seats, just passed the first rental registry in the county, in our region, actually. So we are working with them, and the city of Monterey is about to do the same thing. Because like Chance was saying, when one jurisdiction nearby does something, you can use that to pressure the ones around it to do the same thing. So we're all getting geared up to make sure that the renter registry starts happening in all the cities, since these two cities have already done it. And both of these cities, Salinas and Monterey, are also going to be addressing a rent cap that's significantly less than the 10%. So we're super excited about that. And all of that, happened because we made it a point to reach out to renters. I particularly worked very closely with my central committee during the election. We endorsed candidates and we phone banked specifically directly to renters, and did all kinds of texting. And it really makes a difference when the renter community turns out. I encourage everybody to know what percentage of renters are in their jurisdictions that they're working on, because that's a big number that a lot of these elected officials don't even know. And it's important because it tells you what their priorities are. And also, you pressure them. It's like, because with us, what we really said is, you really can't win an election if 66% of us are renters, and you're not going to help our majority of residents out. So that was really, really fulfilling to see some of that happen. We did have a lot of redistricting that affected our area. And so we went from basically, having some representation in Sacramento from Monterey County to just going to to Santa Cruz and to San Luis Obispo because of the redistricting. But I'm very happy to say that the next Speaker of the Assembly is going to be our very own Robert Rivas. So we are very much looking forward to working with him. I have a very strong relationship with him. And I think that's going to be a more important relationship than what we don't have with Senator Laird from Santa Cruz and Dawn Addis from San Luis Obispo. So in addition to that, I work very closely with my congressman. And also because of redistricting, we now have another congressperson in our immediate region, which is Zoe Lofgren. So I've worked with Jimmy Panetta and his housing staff for years, specifically on the corporate landlord issue, which he basically 5 years ago had no idea what was happening and was very surprised and has taken a very significant interest in it, and has joined with some other Congress members in some bills that they're authoring. So he's finally, getting the knowledge. I encourage everybody to make the effort to work with your Congress members as well as your, state elected officials and your local elected officials, because it really makes a difference in how nationally some of these things are approached. And so I think I'm not going to take up too much more time other than to say that we really, really have to turn up the vote for renters next year. We are going into a presidential election, and traditionally that gets a lot of voter turnout. So, we've got to get together with our central committees and other advocate groups to talk to renters and get the renter vote out and educate them and empower them. I've done webinars in English and in Spanish to get people, educated on what is happening that is for them to vote in their own best interest. Because as we know, these corporations and these associations come in and they outspend all of us by, 20 times. I think it was the number last time that Prop 10 or 21 came up. And they scare, they use these scare tactics and people vote against their own best interest. So it's really up to us to educate them so that they don't fall for that nonsense and understand, how important their votes are. So I'm, available to work with anybody who wants to really take on that aspect of working with, their own individual city central committees, as well as, getting directly into the communities that we know historically don't turn out to vote. And another vote I'll tell you is really important is the youth vote. We've got a lot of kids turning 18 and a lot of them are not happy with the way things have been going. So we go after that vote too, and we can make a huge difference in this state when, with 18 million of us, we're almost half of the residents here. So thank you all for everything that you do. And thank you for, joining the council. And I look forward to the coming couple of years that I'll be back on, that I'll stay on it to keep making some progress locally and statewide and nationally too.
Thank you, Esther. I just want to be mindful of time. Vice Chair Arturo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, and thank you, Esther, for your report. I don't know how we're doing on time, Madam Chair, but I would like to hear from those folks who are on the floor in Delano. Let me see if I have Gladys who's able to come online. Gladys, are you able to get on? If not, we can jump back in. Let's see here. Okay, we might be able to circle back around, Madam Chair. And I'll hand the floor back to you so that we can keep on with our schedule. Once again, I do want to say that it has been just an honor serving with this group. There's a few of us that are there's a few of us that are staying on as new members. And at the end of this call, I do want to tell the new folks that are joining the Renters Council Board that we've taken this job really serious. And I know that you guys are going to do an amazing job at carrying the torch for renters across the state of California. It has been just amazing to see folks and see how far the Renters Council has come. And to me, it's something that I've invested a lot of sweat and tears. And just like I wanted to share one story about the folks who are fighting currently in Tulare County because of them being evicted due to their immigration status by their landlord, the Tulare County Housing Authority. And one of the stories that we might not see or hear of very often, but we have dreamers who have been threatened with jeopardizing their being a dreamer or DACA. And if they did not move within 3 days, and just the dream of being able to go and study being put on a halt for Filiberto's daughter because now she couldn't continue her education because she had to join the workforce in order to afford extremely high rents here in the Central Valley. And that story is being repeated left. And it's so sad that even government agencies are participating in these kinds of acts towards our undocumented farm workers. And these are new stories that are coming up, and unfortunately we're hearing reports of this happening. So many folks here are keeping their ears to the ground, and these are fights that are coming along, and we'll see how legislation can help and support these kinds of cases. But this is all new. This is what happens when you have your feet on the ground, when you have your ear to the floor, and you have a pulse of the neighborhood. We're able to know that what's going on in the communities and where we need to react. With that, Madam Chair, I give the floor back.
Thank you. So I'm gonna go next to the agenda. Vice Chair Andrew is not in today. So I'm gonna pass it. I'm gonna go next on the agenda to the legislative update, Housing Now, Francisco Duanes. Francisco.
There he is.
Hi, folks hear me? Hi, can folks hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. My name is Francisco Dueñas. I'm the Executive Director of Housing Now. We're a statewide housing justice advocacy coalition made up of organizations from throughout the state, from small unincorporated, meaning like non-profit organizations, to large organizations with presence and members across the state. And I too am having some allergy issues, so apologies for my congestion. I'm going to do a quick legislative update. Senator Maria Elena Durazo talked about one of the bills that is a priority for our coalition. I don't know if I can share my screen, Mari, is that possible?
I will make you a co-host.
Thank you, Alfred, appreciate it. And so this is a quick just run through of the bills that we prioritized as a coalition for this year. And I just updated it as of last Friday, this past week. Folks know where we're at in the legislative process. You know, bills are introduced, they go to a policy committee, and then they go to a fiscal committee. And just this past Thursday, it was announced which bills made it out of the fiscal committees. That's what they call the appropriations committee. Many times bills end up dying there. And so I think we're this year happy to report that none of our priority bills stopped or were stalled or were killed there. But I will say, as Ryan mentioned in the chat, SB567, which is one of our priority bills, it has been weakened from the bill that we presented or that was introduced originally. It included a rent cap originally. It included expanding the tenant protections from AB 1482 to single family renters who rent single family homes or mobile homes. And both of those provisions have been amended out. So we are left with two additional categories of things that this bill does. One is closing loopholes to prevent abuse of no-fault evictions. That category has also gotten some weakening. So we are going to have to come back to the legislature. We're going to have to keep on fighting. And folks on the ground, you know, you all will have to keep on fighting for stronger protections at the local level. we know that all these things are interacting, the local with the state and even the federal. I don't know if folks saw that the White House put out a blueprint for a Renters Bill of Rights that included something like a rent cap. So we need to make sure that all these things, we're pulling on all levers, and we're making sure that all of our efforts add up to greater and greater protections for our community. So the piece that is still very prominent in this bill right now is the enforcement, which Senator Maria Elena Durazo talked about. And that is something that is going to be useful across the state, especially in those jurisdictions that do not have any type of other rent control efforts, right? Because for them, the state level AB 1482 is the main base level of protection. The other three bills that I wanted just to highlight for folks, and just to mention, so SB 567, now it goes to the Senate floor, meaning we're going to need 21 votes, 21 senators to support. And so we really, I'll be sharing a link to get all your members to call their senators and to, hopefully win their vote. The same is true for these other priority bills, because 3 out of the 4 are starting in the Senate. This bill, SB 225, tries to address the need for affordable housing, which we all know we need more of, but it does it by preserving the housing that we currently have. When long-term residents are evicted, many times, because there's a new owner, a lot of times, not just we lose those community members, right? And many times they can't find housing in the same community, but we also lose the affordability of that existing housing. And so in addition to producing affordable housing, we can also be preserving it. We can be acquiring it and preserving it. And this strategy, folks may have heard of that through the governor's room key strategy or home key during the pandemic, buying motels, small motels, and helping folks who are unhoused come in during the pandemic. That is preservation. That is acquisition and preservation. And we need to do more of that, because that is a lot faster than building all the housing that we need. So we need a combination of both. And unfortunately, at the state level, we don't have a preservation fund that is doing this across the state. And so that is what SB 225 would do. It would create a new program to help acquire and preserve existing housing that is not subsidized. And so if there's a new landlord, a new property owner, we're going to lose that affordability because it's not controlled, that there's no subsidy there. And so this bill did come out of the appropriations. It is moving forward, but we also know that given the budget situation, which many, if you all haven't heard, the state is reporting a deficit, a budget deficit of $31 billion. What we're hearing right now with the budget advocacy is that they are looking for a lot of new programs. And so this bill we are trying to win funding to be able to acquire and preserve this housing. And so we know that this is an uphill battle this year. So in this slide, you'll see a few legislators which we are trying to make sure to be engaged with. So we're looking for your support on that bill and on generally educating the legislative staff and legislators about this strategy, which we also need. The last bill that is moving is SB 555, and many of you may have heard about this term called social housing. This is a bill that helps ask the Housing and Community Development Department to help us create a plan for California to have social housing. Social housing is housing that is permanently affordable, that is off the private market, that is helped to run by the residents, and that affordability will not end after a certain amount of time. So again, permanent affordability. And there's many different models of what that looks like, especially internationally, in Vienna, in Singapore, places where they've come up with a way to, you know, have more higher income residents help subsidize the lower income residents. But so it's a mix of incomes, but the idea is that it's people pay what they can, right? That's the goal here. And to be able to have a lot of it, so that way, you know, the rental market is not so tied to the dictates of the economics, of what it looks like for landlords. So this bill is a study bill. It's asking HCD to figure out how can we align all what are the programs that are needed in order to create a 1.5 million units of social housing in California. Again, this bill got out of appropriations and now it's headed to the Senate. Get your support. This doesn't have a huge a budget request to it because it's more of a study bill, but we are hoping that we're using it to help educate legislators about what social housing is. It also includes a definition in the bill itself. And the last bill that I wanted to share with you all is this is a constitutional amendment sponsored by Assemblymember Haney from San Francisco, ACA 10. We all know we need housing. We all know renters need more protection. We all know everybody deserves safe, affordable housing and stable housing. So why don't we make that a right and have that right be in our Constitution? Because then that way we can, again, align and orient our various different institutions in the state. And so that's what this constitutional amendment would do. Again, I think similar to the other bill, which was trying to educate folks around what social housing is, this bill, we don't know if we'll have the votes that we need to get it out of the legislature this year. We are heading for a hearing, most likely June the 7th, its first hearing. Constitutional amendments have slightly different timelines, but we know that we need to, this is going to be another long-term fight to educate folks about what making housing a human right in California, what it would mean, and what it takes to get there as well. And so I'm hoping we can get your support on this effort as well. This, again, beyond simply putting it into the Constitution, it's about changing hearts and minds that everybody should have a safe, affordable, stable place to be able to go to and seek that aid. So those are our top 4 priorities. There are additional bills that we've endorsed as a coalition from Housing Now. Let me put our notes from our policy working group call in the chat, just so that folks can see them if you would like to get caught up on some of the other bills that we've endorsed. But let me stop there.
Thank you, Francisco. Appreciate that report. If there are any questions, please put them in the chat and we can, Francisco, you can answer if there's any questions.
Mari, I will,
go ahead.
One comment I'll mention, I haven't had a chance to follow all the chat comments, so I'll go back and see if there's any questions in there that I can answer. Ryan was mentioning that the Pasadena Tenants Union wasn't sure about supporting SB567. One of the things that the bill sponsors are adamant about, and I think the author is as well, is to make sure that anything that is moving forward is an improvement on what we have at the state level. And so even though the bill has gotten watered down, it is still a major improvement, especially with the enforcement piece, than what we have right now, which is there's no enforcement, unfortunately, really there for AB 1482 protections. And so bill sponsors were careful to make sure that nothing in there was making it worse, or would preempt what local communities have. And so I really don't see any downside for supporting this. Obviously, a lot of local communities are having conversations with their legislative, with their senator about, you know, hey, why are you watering this down as opposed to making it stronger? So that's definitely a conversation needs to happen. But in terms of supporting the policy, the bill, I just don't see any downside to improving what's there for tenants and homeowners. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. So I hear that the Attorney General is logging in right now. Do you see him, Alfred?
Not yet. I saw Jessica Caloza just joined. Let's see.
Yeah, that's Rob. That's the Attorney General there as Jessica.
Okay, thank you. So he's oh, there he is. Thank you so much for joining us, Attorney General Rob Bonta. Always a pleasure having you here. So the Attorney General, you know, even during the days as a member of the City Council of Alameda, and as well as our Assembly member for District 18, was fighting for tenant protections. He helped lead campaigns to bring the Tenant Protections Act and Just Cause tenant protections, and among other. So it's an honor to introduce you, and welcome to the California Democratic Renters Council convening for 2023.
Hi, Mari, and thank you for the kind introduction. Good to see you. Hey, Alfred, and all of the incredible tenant and renter advocates here. Good to see everyone. Hey, Igor. Thank you for the opportunity. I thought I would maybe, and sorry for the untraditional location here. I'm sorry if it looks slightly awkward, but I'm glad we can hear each other and listen to one another. Maybe I'll just make a few comments about some of the work that we're doing, and then happy to have a conversation if you wish and answer any questions that you might have. Some of you may know that when it comes to tenant protections, I was a California legislator who was proud to be one of the co-authors of AB 1482, Just Cause Eviction statewide, anti-rent gouging, made California's protections some of the strongest in the history of the state and strongest in the nation. And there's still more to do. And so I appreciate all that you do to push and make sure that there's an enforcement and no violations of those laws, and that we push for other protections for renters, especially during COVID. We saw just how important it was to have a roof over your head and a place to go home. We housing just we hired a special assistant attorney general who is on the executive team to help guide the work of that unit. His name's Alex Fish from Southern California. He was in our office with another role. He was also a former council member and mayor, and very involved with housing production work, tenant protection work. So we're grateful to have him, and we've also asked for more resources from the governor to help really build out that team so that it can do what it needs to do. Take on housing unaffordability, take on the issues in all its forms: housing production, protection, preservation, certainly protecting tenants, as well as producing more units. We're working with cities, letting them know when they're violating the law, when they're not compliant with state law, and are dragging their feet or just not executing on their building of more housing. We've been involved with cities up and down the state, from Huntington Beach to Elk Grove and in between. And we've also been working with landlords who have violated the law, who have violated tenants' rights, including groups like Wedgwood. And we'll be announcing some other enforcement action where AB 1482 has been violated. And we've also shared with tenants in language more information about their rights. We saw improper evictions of tenants in the form of locking them out of their units, putting their furniture and belongings on the street, turning off their utilities. And we reminded tenants that those are all in violation of the law. They need to have a court order for an eviction if there is going to be an eviction. And so making sure that existing rights are honored, not violated, that those are held accountable when they break the law from the landlord side, and then getting more units produced up and down the state has been some of the work that we're doing. So I moved from the legislative policymaking side, which I was proud to be a part of at the state legislature for almost a decade, and now to the enforcement side. And so I realized that, as a legislator, I always assumed and presumed that the bills that we pass into law touch the people in the way that we intended and hoped and envisioned. But enforcement is absolutely critical for that to be the case. Not all the laws are complied with. Sometimes they're not known. Sometimes people acting in good faith don't comply with it. Sometimes people violate them acting in bad faith. And in either case, we need to enforce and make sure that the protections for tenants that are here in place in California are there to help a person keep a roof over their head and make sure that their rights are honored. So maybe I'll just leave it at, I'm really proud of our housing justice unit. It's first of its kind in the history of the California Department of Justice. And we're always looking to do our work in the best way we can. And the best way we can is working with advocates and organizers and leaders who are doing this work every day on the ground, and that's you. So if you see something that's amiss or something that's being violated, or a place where the DOJ can be active and can partner with you to help our tenants, then please reach out. We believe we do our work best when we're informed and listening and in partnership. So maybe I'll just leave it at that for opening remarks, but let me end with a thank you to you. Thank you for your advocacy, for standing up for tenants, for protecting some of our most vulnerable people who need you to fight for them. And I'm in that fight along with you.
Thank you so much for your work. So some of the questions that we have, if you have a minute, some of them are, what has the task force, the housing task force, deliverables, I think there's a question about that. Is there a place that we can get information, and what is the scope of some of the work that is happening, and if perhaps we can have the phone numbers in case, I know that Ryan Bell from Tenants Together indicated that they hear of so many different stories where tenants their rights are being violated, so if you're able, or Jessica able to post in the chat a phone number that the tenants can call, they can get some of that information. That'd be great. And thank you so much. I know that the Attorney General has been very busy. I know there's a couple of incidents, and actually, Attorney General, since I'm going to have, Gladys Flores. She is with Centro de Unidad Popular de Benito Juárez. She works with our indigenous community in the Central Valley, primarily farm workers. And we have seen tremendous sense of displacement. We've seen violations of laws. We see workers being threatened by immigration is going to be called on them, that the sheriff will be called on them. We see families being separated because of this. So I'm going to have Gladys, if you can come up, and if you can provide a little bit of an update on what is happening in Tulare County.
Yes, hi, Mari. Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Gladys. So I apologize. I won't be turning on my camera. I've been having internet issues. But yes, I would like to talk to all of you guys about the indigenous communities. We're serving the Mixtecos, Zapotecos, Triquis, all the indigenous communities that Spanish is not their first language. Unfortunately, due to that basic language barrier, renters are taking advantage of them with, by them getting evicted in many different ways, and the horrible ways that you would imagine, just because, they're undocumented and they don't speak Spanish, and very, very little knowledge about anything about services that it's available out there. And what is happening in Tulare County, what Mari was mentioning was that, we were encountering Linnell Camp and Woodville Camp, and we were talking about, that they were getting 3 days eviction notice by housing authorities. So we encountered that, and we started pulling in other organizations that could help us out. And this is where Central Valley Empowerment Alliance really stepped up and really helped us out a lot on that end. But you know, there's still going a lot of that type of discrimination, a lot of evictions, a lot of really, you know, where there's families that they're being they just go in and they pay for their 2-3 months of deposit plus the rent, and then, you know, within 2 months they get kicked out and they don't get their deposit back. That's how unfortunate it. And as everybody knows right now, with the high with everything being so high, food, gas, you name it, you know, everything, it's very expensive. You know, families are kept and threatened with immigration, with sheriff, with anything else that, you know, that if they speak up, you know, they're gonna, they know where they know where they're at, and they're gonna take those consequences. You know, just basic stuff like that, just basic human rights. It's getting abused from the indigenous communities. And, you know, I want to appreciate Maria and Arturo for inviting us as Unidad Popular Benito Juarez to come into this space with all of you guys, and really talk to all of you and stay connected as a whole state, because we're not only serving Tulare, but also in Kern, Fresno, and Madera. So we know the indigenous population is very large here in California. But, you know, as we could help, you know, we're more there to help out our brothers and sisters. Thank you.
Thank you, Gladys. So Attorney General, I really wanted you to hear that, because it's heartbreaking to see that some of the things that our parents and grandparents were fighting is still exist in rural communities. And one of the things, you know, Gladys represents our indigenous community in the Central Valley, but we're seeing our indigenous that were impacted by the floods, and they went into hiding. You know, they're not able to tap into any of the resources, and they are unhoused, you know, and so it is an issue that is happening, and we're seeing and the housing is uninhabitable, and we're seeing landlords doubling, tripling the rents, and folks have no choice, you know. So that is the reality that is happening in many rural communities, you know, and we've seen this after the pandemic and now after the floods. And so thank you for your leadership. Really appreciate that.
Sorry, I'm on mute. So thank you for sharing that. I think one of the things that we've done, we've been involved in areas all over the state, including rural areas, areas in the valley, where there were some blatant violations of law, of civil rights, of constitutional rights. And we got involved. I think sometimes folks assume no one's looking, and you know, we want to be there if when we become aware of violations of law, including tenant protection. So this would be a great thing to work with our Special Assistant Attorney General Alex Fish on. He starts tomorrow, and we included his email contact information, and maybe we could do a convening. A number of the chat comments that I've been able to read include suggestions of collaboration, hotline information that you're receiving, violations that you're aware of that we could help address and solve with you. So we would love to do that, and I'll speak with Alex about doing a follow-up meeting that's more substantive, specifics and cases and follow-up that we can do.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. And if there's any other questions for the Attorney General. Okay. Thank you for that information, Jessica. We'll make sure to pass it on to folks. All right. Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure having you, Attorney General. Thank you for your leadership. And definitely we're going to be calling. We're going to be calling.
Alfred, Igor, Art, good to see everybody. Susie, take care. Thank you. please reach out. We want to work with you. So we're your partner, and we'll be by your side working on these issues. So we can help all the tenants that are being treated unfairly. So looking forward to the work ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going back to the agenda. So we Francisco, were you done with your update?
Francisco had to leave.
Okay. So we're going to go to Southern California update. So in the absence of Andrew Lewis, I'm going to have Ryan Bell and Susie Shannon. Ryan Bell is newly elected vice chair for Southern Region, and Susie Shannon, newly elected, re-elected officer at large. So Ryan, would you provide us with an update?
SoCal Vice Chair, sorry.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I was just unmuted. Thanks so much. Glad to be here. I didn't know that I was going to be doing this, so forgive me for it not being entirely thorough. So I'm just going to go off the top of my head. Some just in terms of good news that I've heard recently from tenants that are fighting for their rights in Southern California. The city of Cudahy is writing right now. The staff has been instructed to write a rent control and just cause eviction ordinance for the city of Cudahy, where they've been working hard on that for a number of years. I think they have a tenant supportive majority on their council now. Two areas that are really in the throes of big fights, Santa Barbara County and Burbank are both, and Claremont, all three are fighting mass rent evictions, trying to get their councils to tighten up the ordinances around rent evictions. Santa Barbara County and Santa Barbara City have both passed some protections against rent evictions, but they don't yet include a right to return and other stronger enforcement mechanisms. And Burbank is in the midst of fighting a bunch of mass evictions, and they don't have anything yet. I heard that South Pasadena got an temporary eviction moratorium. The city of South Pasadena, just to be clear, is a separate city from Pasadena. And they just got a temporary eviction moratorium while they work on a rent eviction ordinance there. So, with stronger tenant protections at the state level, the landlords are shifting their strategy to alleged renovations and using that as a pretext for evictions, which is why we were so excited about SB567. But unfortunately, most of the rent eviction parts of that were, the good stuff was taken out of that. In Pasadena City, our new rent board meets on Wednesday for the very first meeting. So keep us in your thoughts as we try to spin up a new rent program in Pasadena. Let's see. In the city and county of Los Angeles, we're working on the Keep LA House Coalition is working on, continuing to fight for our tenant bill of rights. If you want to see that tenant bill of rights, it's super cool. It's at keeplahouse.org. Right now, we're trying to tighten up the tenant anti-harassment ordinance and code enforcement procedures. And we're in talks with county and city officials on that. We're holding on Tuesday or Wednesday, we're holding a policy summit at UCLA. The county is holding a policy summit at our insistence at UCLA for electeds and city staff to be educated by their peers and also by other experts in the county and other cities about ways that they can smaller cities. There's 88 municipalities in LA County, so 87 of them are not Los Angeles City. And so of those 87, the county can't do much because there's incorporated cities. So this policy summit is designed to give tools, ideas, inspiration, policies, specific policies to electeds and city staff in those other 87 municipalities to protect tenants and strengthen their tenant protections. So that's kind of a big deal, and there'll be more code enforcement and anti-tenant harassment fights ahead in both the city and the county. So I guess I'll just leave it there for now. I think those are the big ones that are on my mind just off the top of my head, and I'll pass it over to Susie.
Hi, everyone. So Brian gave a really thorough report. I will add some good news, which is that one of our community plans that just passed in the city of LA includes, for the first time, inclusionary zoning. We have been trying to get any kind of inclusionary zoning passed. We want, obviously, a comprehensive ordinance for the entire city for inclusionary zoning. We know some of the cities in California have inclusionary zoning. The city of LA, shockingly, does not. So that was a little victory in our downtown community plan, with a promise for our Hollywood community plan to have this in the future. So we're inching along a little bit. The other thing I want to do is tell you that we're in the middle of a crisis with one of our buildings here, which is Barrington Plaza. And I want Larry Gross, who's our newly elected at-large member, to just give a quick update on what's happening with the tenant displacement in this building. Larry, are you there? Larry Gross, are you there?
All right. Yes, I was waiting to be on mute. Thanks. So I'm here to give you the bad news, unfortunately. So we've been working with tenants in a over 700 unit building on the west side of LA called Barrington Plaza. The owner there is Douglas Emmett, big corporate developer who has been trying to evict all the tenants. They had attempted to get the former city council member Mike Bonin, strong tenant ally, to agree to an exemption in the rent control ordinance so they can evict tenants to put in fire sprinklers because they've had a number of fires there. I worked with Mike Bonin on this. We told him no way, no how, that there's an existing provision in our rent control law that allows them to do this type of repair by temporarily relocating tenants and then moving that back in. Douglas Emmett didn't want to go with that. They put $400,000 into a campaign to support city council member who was elected, Tracy Park. Right after she got there, these landlords filed for Ellis. It's a bogus Ellis, and here in and this could have statewide implications. In the city of Los Angeles, we do a map regularly showing where all the Ellis Act evictions. We've seen 28,500 rent-controlled affordable units lost in the city of Los Angeles due to the Ellis Act, and this would significantly increase it. So we are looking to try and file suit against this to stop these type of evictions using this bogus Ellis Act, because the Ellis Act, as you all know, is used to go out of the rental business and convert use of that property. It's not to do renovations such as fire sprinklers. And so if they get away with this, it could have impact throughout the state as far as other landlords using this renovation provision to undermine Ellis, which is undermining rent control, no doubt. So just wanted to bring that to people's attention. We are continuing to fight this, and the tenants were served with 120 20-day notice, so they don't have a lot of time. This is probably the only large complex of affordable housing on the west side of Los Angeles. It's 3 huge towers, and just wanted to make you all aware that this can threaten our ability to stop Ellis, and that's why we need to reform this, which we've been trying to do for decades now, and we were a co-sponsor of the bill that Alex Lee had to reform Ellis, which didn't get through. So I'll leave it at that.
Great, thank you. I also want to say that a number of us from Southern California went on national lobby days recently with some folks from Chicago and Massachusetts through a national coalition. We were basically lobbying on Jayapal's Housing is a Human Right bill, which put $300 billion into housing, Maxine Waters' ending homelessness bill, and AOC's bill, which eliminates the Faircloth Amendment and would allow us once again to fix up and build new public housing. And I do want to say we had one huge victory on Friday. We had joined forces with a group in Chicago, the Bell Center, and they basically, what's happened there is they have leveled a lot of public housing, and they had a lot of empty lots, and they were supposed to bring a lot of that housing back. They brought a small fraction of it back, and then they gave away that land to Excess Tennis, which is a tennis club, and then 25 acres of fields to a billionaire who has a Chicago Fire soccer team. And this was going to be for their training fields. But because of our work, really meeting with Congressmember Maxine Waters, who I'm very proud to serve with on the DNC, she now, because we realized too that they didn't do a civil rights report before handing this over, right, to corporations. We now have a press release, and there's a number of press conferences that are going to be going on in Chicago, but our Congress member from Southern California, Maxine Waters, wrote a very strongly worded press release and a letter to Marcia Fudge. And we think that we're going to be able to save all of this land now for public housing. So yay to all the folks in Southern California, to our esteemed Congress member here in Southern California, Maxine Waters. But it just shows, when we all work together, even nationally, we can move mountains and hopefully build more public housing.
Thank you, Susie. Do we have anyone else listed to speak that is still here with us?
Marty, we have a few folks, some of them are from SoCal. But when we're ready for organizing updates, we have some folks.
Well, I think our meeting is supposed to end at 9 o'clock, and we have about 8 minutes to go. So I think we have like around 5 minutes, because we do want to at the end introduce the newly elected officers for the Renters Council. Can it be done?
I know I was scheduled to speak on the statewide initiative. I don't know if you want me to do that now or wait.
Yes, let's, so can we add like 10 more minutes to our agenda? Are we okay with extending it so that we can make sure that we hear from the folks that are here?
Motion to extend meeting till 9:15.
There's a second.
Second.
Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion stands. So let's Susie, can you give the update?
Sure. So I am very excited to announce that we are early in collecting our signatures for the Justice for Renters initiative, and this will repeal Costa Hawkins. It's very similar to Proposition 10, if you remember that. The Renters Council supported that. The California Democratic Party supported that overwhelmingly. Most of the organizations who are represented here supported it. We were expecting to be completed in June to July, but so many people, outside of grocery stores and everywhere across California, we're so excited to sign, to put this initiative on the ballot that we are early. And so we are going to announce on Thursday, which is the day the California Democratic Party starts, that we are submitting our signatures to the 58 counties next week. What this initiative does, if you don't know what Costa Hawkins is, it's an initiative, it's legislation that was passed in 1995, which prevents our local governments from expanding or enacting rent control. And in some cities, it grandfathered in rent control. So for instance, in Los Angeles, you have to live in a building that was built in 1978 or before to be under rent control. If a tenant moves out, that means that unit can go up to market rate. And in San Francisco, it's a building in 1979 or earlier. West Hollywood, there's a couple of cities that actually have rent control now. And so what this does actually is allow our local government to enact or expand rent control. It will not affect existing rent control. So if you have rent control, the city can't just get rid of it. And we're just very, very excited. And this will be on the November 2024 ballot. We're early here because last time with Prop 21, which was a little different than this one, we were outspent by corporate developers. They spent almost $100 million against our $30 million. So we're trying to get a little ahead to help educate tenants. As Esther said, it's really, really important for us to be, reaching out to tenants, definitely getting them registered to vote. I'm going to give a huge shout out to Betty Toto, who is our national organizer for our organization and who is working on the Justice for Renters initiative. And she's going to put in the chat, if she hasn't already, a way that you all can endorse as individuals, as elected officials, or if you could go back and please ask your organizations, I'm sure that you guys belong to many organizations, to support this. And then we're going to bring this up at the California Democratic Party Executive Board. We have to talk to the CDP about when that's going to happen, but we hope that if you are an e-board member, that you will endorse and help us organize around that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Susie. That's wonderful news. Super excited to work on that. So we have a couple of speakers. Igor, can you lead us with that? And then let's be mindful of time because we really want to dedicate and introduce. We just had an election. We want to introduce the newly elected officers for your Renters Council. Igor.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I'm going to ask folks if each speaker keeps it to within 3 minutes apiece, and then we'll be able to get through this. So first, I would like to bring up Sandra Lowe, who has been doing amazing work organizing on many fronts. And Sandra has a really important campaign to share with us.
Thank you so much, Igor, and thank you, Madam Chair, for this opportunity. My name is Sandra Lowe. I'm a DNC member along with my colleague Susie Shannon, who's doing amazing work. Nice to see you. Can't wait to see you in person after all this time. Right now, I'm working on the ballot measure that will lower the threshold for passing housing bonds in California. We're still in the research phase, but our goal is to get it on the ballot in 2024. We do have the funding. We have the team to put it together. As you know, housing bonds are 66 2/3. So it's the tyranny of the minority that is stopping us from having local municipalities and counties and special districts going forward to pass housing bonds. So we're working with labor, housing advocacy groups, nonprofits, faith-based coalition, etc. And we're setting up Zoom and in-person meetings. We're scheduling a meeting for Southern California coming up. I'm going to put my information into the chat. So I hope you will reach out to me so that we can include you and your organizations in everything that we're doing. There's a possibility that the legislature may put this on the ballot for us, in which case, great, we can save some money in signature gathering, which you know is millions and millions of dollars, and instead put it into the campaign. We can imagine who's going to be opposed to us on the same ballot. The Business Roundtable is doing almost the opposite thing by making it more difficult to pass housing bonds and anything on the ballot by making the threshold higher and more difficult. So we know it's going to be a tough ballot, but we're in it to win it. Our polling is strong. The issue is right. This is the #1 issue in California, as this wonderful meeting, demonstrates. So look for my information in the chat. Let me know how we can continue to be involved. I'll see you at the party this weekend. Hope it will be a little bit of a party. I'll be speaking to this at the Labor Caucus and other caucuses. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much, sister. Yes, please put your info in the chat. This is great. We'll see you at convention. Let's move. So Iris Rosenblum Sellers, if you could, there you are. Okay. And so Iris had a really important campaign that wanted to share. So go right ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Igor, and thank you, Madam Chair. So hi, my name is Iris. I am a member of UAW Local 2865, grad student workers at UC, and something like 99% of our members are tenants, and we're looking at getting active on housing policy. The specific ordinance that we had in mind, so I'm located at UC Berkeley, and right across the bay in San Francisco, there is an ordinance called Union at Home, which is essentially forces landlords to negotiate with their tenants in big multi-unit complexes, so long as the tenants are able to pass a card check agreement. 50% of the tenants have to sign on and say they want to form a tenants union, and then the landlord has to attend their meetings and bargain with them over things like rent. So it's a pretty cool ordinance that we think would benefit a lot of our members, and we're sort of in early stages of organizing for something like that in the city of Berkeley. And yeah, that's sort of all we've got right now, but look forward for developments in that.
Thank you, Iris, and please put your contact info in the chat so folks can get in touch with you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Awesome. All right, now I would love to introduce Aura Vasquez, who is a delegate, e-board member, a champion for climate and housing justice, and she's going to be mentioning some issues happening right now in the solar for tenant space, and she might have an important update for us. Let me.
Vice Chair Igor, I think she
Oh,
just dropped off. Yeah,
okay.
she was on and she literally it just disconnected on her, I think.
Okay. Well, while we wait to hopefully get her back, let's go to, sorry. Let's go to, yes, Jot Svarup, my good friend Jot Svarup is here, and Swarup is from the California Reinvestment Coalition. It's been doing tremendous work on behalf of tenants and transparency around who's funding all of these LLC funded campaigns. And she's going to give us a little update on what's going on and what's next.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Igor. Hi, everyone. I'm Jyoti Rugawa. As Igor mentioned, I'm with the California Reinvestment Coalition. We're a coalition of housing and small business supporting organizations, essentially broadly economic development folks. We had a second effort at trying to force the California Secretary of State to require disclosure of owners behind limited liability corporations. This is important. As you all know, a lot of large companies and REITs that own property usually hold it under a limited liability corporation, and they can just name a administrative person called the agent of service as the only person named on the paperwork, which makes identifying who the real owner is and having accountability for ill health due to bad conditions really difficult. It also makes it really hard for code enforcement, local code enforcement, to recognize that they are working essentially, maybe perhaps 10 of the cases in their portfolio all belong to the same slumlord, if you will. Anyway, the legislation was SB594. It died in appropriations on suspense on Thursday. We had a $9 million price tag from the Secretary of State's office. They said that they need 26 full-time positions to add a question to their statement of information, a form that owners already filed. So we're trying to figure out what that BS price tag was about, and we think that it's actually Senator Umberg, who, if you didn't know, is roommates with Senator Portantino, who runs the Appropriations Committee, was actually behind the fact that we did not get off suspense, even though we didn't have any real opposition. We had labor supporting it, California Federation of Labor, California Coalition of Worker Power, which is a coalition of several worker centers across the state, SEIU California, AFSCME, we had a ton of labor support. Unite Here Local 11 was actually our co-sponsor. We will be bringing the bill back again next year, and if you have any relationship with Dr. Weber, the Secretary of State, or have any ideas, I'm going to put my email in the chat. I would really love to hear from you. Thank you so much for your support and for your time today.
Thank you so much, Swarup. And yes, please, let's see how we can support you in this next go around, because whatever it is, the third or fourth time is the charm. And thank you so much for being a member of this council. Okay, so this next one, I'm gonna tag team a little bit with Aura, if someone can spotlight Aura. And first, what I wanted to do is just let you know about an upcoming issue where the investor-owned utility monopoly, PG&E, in my territory, SoCal Edison in SoCal, as well as San Diego Gas and Electric, are trying to take away solar for tenants in multifamily housing. This is crazy. Yes. Right now, under this program, tenants are able to save $50 a month. So this is a real savings, and no one should have to make the agonizing and unacceptable choice between paying their rent and paying their utility bills. So we have a campaign going, and I'm putting in the chat the sign-on form. If you have an organization that you can get to sign on to this letter to the California Public Utilities Commission and the governor by the end of May. The CADEM Renters Council has already signed on. And we have 50 sign-ons right now, and we're trying to get to 200 in the next 10 days. It's a pretty popular sign-on. Happy to answer any questions about that. AWA has been fighting for climate justice and access to renewable, affordable energy for all, especially tenants. And AWA, you have the floor.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I know it's super late. My name is Aura Vasquez. I live here in Los Angeles, and I have been an environmental advocate for a really, really long time. You guys know me from my days as a DWP commissioner. And what Igor is stating regarding renters' inability to get solar is very real. So I encourage everyone to get involved and to find out. Here in Los Angeles, as in my days as a commissioner for DWP, I was able to enact a community solar, a solar for renters program that is slowly developing. We need to do more, and the time is now. And there's a huge intersectionality between housing and environmental justice. So I hope that as you guys continue advocating for more socialized housing, for more affordable housing, you also see how you're helping our planet by helping people stay in their own communities. I also want to share that I am running for City Council in Los Angeles for City Council District 10. And I hope that all of you can get involved and support me. And for this committee to also support all levels of government, people that are supporting renters. And as a renter, this topic is extremely important to me. And I hope that at the local level, we can continue working together to enact more policies that support renters. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Aura. Please put your contact info or campaign website in the chat. Thank you so much. And the last speaker.
Igor, before we get to the next speaker, we've got a motion to extend time.
Oh, okay. Great. What?
Yeah, this is going past 9:15 clearly, and we still haven't introduced the board members. A lot of people are having to go, and I would like to either extend time or cut some of the speakers off so we can let introduce the new board members.
Let's do intro of board members, and George, I know you're here to give an update on Hayward. Maybe we can do that at the end as time permits, if that's okay.
All right, so I will motion to extend to 9:30 and move board introductions to right now.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. This is Vinny.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, let's go to board. I know Ryan has to go, so why don't we start with Ryan?
What do I do?
Brief intro.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know if we were just like telling people. Okay, so
like who you are, what your goals are. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, I'll be really quick. My name is Ryan Bell. I live in Pasadena, California. I'm a member of the Pasadena Tenants Union here in Pasadena. I'm also a staff person with Tenants Together, and serve the Southern California area as the regional coordinator. So my role here with the board will be very similar to the work I do every day with Tenants Together. I think it's important that we build tenant power in California. We saw in the recent report that a number of organizations put out last week that the California Apartment Association and its associates meets almost quarterly with the governor for the past 6 years. And we can't manage still to get even one meeting with his staff as tenant organizations. And that really is a signal that we don't have the power that we need in California. Oh yeah, Betty's reminding me that I was recently appointed to the rent board in Pasadena, and we're having our first meeting on Wednesday. Thank you.
Welcome, Ryan. Look forward to working with you in this capacity. And then let's go with the officers of large.
We have any.
Annie, can you please
Sure.
introduce yourself and
Yes,
share a little bit
hi.
about yourself?
Hi, I'm Annie. I use they, them pronouns and am based in Fremont, California. It's the southern part of the East Bay. I'm super excited to be serving on this board. I currently serve as the recording secretary of the Alameda County Dem Party and on the board of the California Young Dems Environmental and Progressive Caucus. And really, again, really excited to start leading and organizing for tenants' rights issues. In this capacity, I've got a whole bunch of ideas and things that I want to do. If you voted for me, thank you for your vote. And just for time's sake, I'll keep it brief because I know we all probably want to get home, get to bed, eat food, and take care of ourselves before the work week begins.
Thank you, Annie. Welcome. Look forward to working with you. Now I'm going to introduce Larry Gross.
Well, welcome, and it's great to be here and great to finally be on the Renters Council. I am the executive director of the Coalition for Economic Survival in Los Angeles. I've been doing this work for 50 years now. I started when I was 2 years old. So we led the effort to bring rent control to the city of Los Angeles. We actually created the city of West Hollywood and elected our members to the city council in an effort to establish strong rent control laws there. I am also the Region 12 regional director of the California Democratic Party, soon to be Region 14 director. I'm also a board member of Tenants Together. And so, I've been doing this a long time, and it is just such a joy to see all these people here and how this movement has grown. And I'm on the Renters Council because I want to see the Democratic Party put its full weight into supporting local and statewide efforts to build a strong tenant movement in California. And so I look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Larry. I look forward to working with you. And I also want to introduce, for those who may not be familiar with the newly re-elected officers. Alfred, would you introduce yourself for folks that may not know who you are?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Alfred. I live in Berkeley. I work as an architect on a lot of affordable housing and also do a lot of monitoring of statewide legislation, which I'll drop a link in the chat of where a lot of our bills are right now. And I am continuing on as the secretary. So you're the one that, I'm the one that you see when you get all those emails and social medias. Thank you.
Thank you, Alfred. Igor.
Oh, sorry. Did you say my name?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I'm gonna be quick. I think most of you know me. Thank you so much to those who voted for me. I'm really honored to be, and for those of you who haven't, I'm also honored to serve you for the next 2 years as your NorCal Vice Chair. I have had the privilege of working with Mari, Art, Alfred, Susie, and others since the beginning when we founded this council. I also serve as chair of the Alameda County Democratic Party and chair of the Environmental Caucus. And you're all invited to come join us at our Environmental Caucus meeting Friday night at convention. 5:30 to 7:15 p.m. For those of you who can't make it to convention, there will be a Zoom link. I'll put my contact info in the chat if you'd like to message me. I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you at the intersection of housing and climate justice and all forms of justice. All power to the people. And si se puede. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Igor. Vinny, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Vinny. I was your treasurer last time, and I guess I get to be the treasurer again. I'm from Fremont, California. I've served 8 years on the Fremont City Council. Was proud to bring a referral for rent stabilization. Unfortunately, my motion didn't even get a second. Yes, that is the state of the Fremont City Council. I'm also on the board of the State Progressive Caucus, and I'm also the chair of the Southern Alameda County Progressive Democrats. Anyway, I'm very happy to be here and fighting for renters. Thank you.
Thank you, Vinny. Now I'm going to move with Monica. Would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Monica. I don't have all the cool titles that everybody else does, but I think I have the coolest title in the fact that I'm an organizer with ACE in South Sacramento. So I work in the community day to day, go door to door, talking to tenants in South Sacramento. And yeah, I'm just happy to work with people. I think work with the council again. I think we really need to hold our elected officials, especially our elected Democrats, accountable for being bad on tenant issues and being supported on by the Apartment and Realtors Association. So I think this year we should try to push when they were trying to make a bunch like the police. I agree, fossil fuel money, agree, toxic, all of it. But we should have added renter or Apartment and Realtors Association money into that as well. So that, I mean, any type of accountability to that would be very helpful. And then, you know, of course, supporting pro-renter policies and organizing from the ground up is what we really need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. And you're right. That's the title that I also feel most proud of, being an organizer. Arturo Rodriguez, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, hello. I'm proud to have been one of the founding members of the Renters Council, and thank you for everybody who continued to support the work that we're doing. And I'll proudly carry on that responsibility and moving that needle forward in light and support of tenant issues and holding our electeds accountable. And I'm very proud to serve with this board. I personally think, although Igor, I also sit on the Environmental Caucus e-board. I do want to say that this e-board is the most dynamic and the most activist group of folks that I've seen in the Democratic Party to this day.
Thank you, Arturo. So now I'm going to go with Susie Shannon.
Hi, everyone. I'm Susie Shannon. I am a Democratic National Committee member and founder of the DNC Poverty Council to work on issues for low-income tenants and people who are unhoused. I've been a member of, or I guess a delegate of the California Democratic Party since 2007. I drafted the poverty subplank for that platform. Larry Gross and I have put in many resolutions and changes to the platform on behalf of renters before the Renters Council even started. So I feel like there are a lot of us here today and in the past who have really been pushing, and just having this Renters Council as a place where we can all work together has been absolutely fantastic. And so I just want to thank everyone who voted for me. And if you didn't vote for me, I hope to earn your vote next time and maybe do better these next 2 years. And thank you again. And please support the Justice for Renters initiative and sign on as an endorser. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Esther, would you please introduce yourself?
Hi, sorry, I couldn't unmute the whole meeting, but hi, I'm Esther Malkin. I'm from the Monterey area. I live in Monterey County, but I'm the whole Central Coast person, and I'm happy to say that I've made some hopefully new connections with some Santa Cruz people that might help bring in some information from that county more to this council. My day job is I'm in sales and marketing. So I do this just out of pure passion and the critical need for it. You know, we all know that renters are really, really vulnerable more than ever. And so I'm also a club member of the Progressives in my local central committee. I'm very active with my central committee. I'm very active in the RenterVote and pushing for that to get attention. I really do believe that if we can get the RenterVote out there, we can win a lot of seats that we wouldn't be able to without the RenterVote. I currently have a resolution that went through unanimously, but through my central committee as well as my region, that is specifically a resolution for renters that's gone to the state party. So whoever's going to be talking about resolutions in LA next week, look for that and help get it through, because I'm not going to the convention. But I look forward to, you know, continuing to push the good subjects and topics that we need to discuss here, like we have, and welcoming the new board members as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Esther. Before I introduce myself, I would love to take a minute to thank Andrew Lewis, who served as the Southern California Vice Chair, and Imber Anakara, who served as Officer at Large. You know, they were co-founders of the California Democratic Renters Council. They were on the trenches, you know, making sure that we created a space within the party. And it was a tough fights that we had. And I just want to thank them for their service. You know, we are better, and we were able to move the needle because of their work, you know, and sharing other gifts and their time with us. And so I just want to thank them. I'm honored to be given the opportunity to serve as your chair for the second term. You know, when it was during the earlier days when, you know, we were trying to create spaces within the party. And I remember having the first meeting you know, I'm going to share a story here with the Attorney General. I wish he could have been here. You know, in the city of Alameda, on District 18, where I was a delegate, I still am. 36 families were being displaced. They were primarily BIPOC families, you know, Filipino, Mexicano, Black. And I remember reaching out to the Attorney General and telling him, this is happening under your watch and my watch. What are we going to do about it? And, you know, I kept calling him every other week. He would hear from me. You know, I would not let him go. I would remind him. And we were able to push for you know, for 1506, which was a repeal Costa Hawkins back in 2017. He and Assembly member Bloomberg and David Hsu and Rob, you know, led that. It didn't pass, you know, and then I kept calling him, didn't let him go, you know, reminding him. And then we came back again, you know, with 1481, 1482, you know, and then we were able to push for the moratorium, you know, for just cause tenant protections. Our first assembly, you know, we didn't have a space for us to meet. The city of Alameda, there was an article that was posted that that the educators were going to be coming into town, and so they denied us the access to the school for our first renters assembly. And he made those calls. He was out there working, and we were able to convene as a, and we had our first meeting for the California Democratic Renters, Council back then in the city of Alameda. So there's a lot of history out there, and I'm just very blessed to be able to be given the opportunity to serve with you, and excited to what we're going to be doing together. A lot of good trouble we're going to be getting ourselves in. The pandemic is over, so we have no excuses for not going out there, knocking on doors, calling, going to, and if we need to knock on those doors of our legislators, going to those, e-boards and, and do those actions that we had. I remember Ace, the yellow shirts, and Tenants together, walking the floors of, and, at the legislative committees and so forth, demanding for, housing is a human right being put in the Constitution even back then, or being a resolution. So I'm excited to work. It's 9:30, so I'm going to honor that. And thank you so much for sharing your time, your gifts, for making sure that tenants, that their voices are lifted, and creating those spaces for them for all of us, to be part of this American dream. With that, I think I'm going to be asking, is there a vote to adjourn? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Okay, first, second.
Out of
All
here.
right. All right. Hearing no comments or objections, here we go. We are adjourned. Our first meeting of this new cycle. Thank you.
Yeah, and that was a